Tonight on the Mike Tomlin Show, the Steelers look to bounce back after that loss in Cleveland on Thursday Night Football, and they'll do so with another AFC North matchup tomorrow. Coach Tomlin tells Bob Pompeani why the winless Bengals can't be overlooked. I also sit down with team captain Cam Hayward, who says the defense needs to step up again. All of that and much more as the Mike Tomlin Show starts right now.
Here we go. This pass is caught, and that's a touchdown. That's the way to work. Come on. He's hit that sack. The Steelers win the football game. Let's go. Come get it. You know what it is.
This one is in the history books.
Here we go.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber.
Hello again, everyone. This is Bob Pompeani alongside Mike Tomlin, head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Mike, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about what happened at the end of the game. I know you didn't say much about it right afterwards when emotions were pretty raw. You've had time to think about it. Your reaction to what happened?
You know, it was unfortunate for football. I think football is a big loser. I don't think any of us want to be involved in any displays of that nature on either team. And that's what I think about when I think about it. You know, we're all charged to safeguard and protect the integrity of the game. And it wasn't done so in that instance, and that's a shame. But another reason I didn't want to talk a whole lot about it, because what transpired had very little to do with the outcome of the game. And so I want to keep the focus where it needs to be on our execution or lack thereof. The game was pretty much decided, obviously, when that fight broke out, and there were a lot of things that we did or did not do that had a lot to do with the outcome of that game. And so I want to push the focus there with the football team in preparation for our next opportunity.
Were you glad the NFL acted that quickly, though? Because they didn't waste any time.
I really didn't ponder that. I knew that they would. Just in today's NFL, things come down pretty quickly, particularly things of that nature. And along with the process of appealing and so forth, things have gotten pretty streamlined in today's NFL, so I wasn't surprised by that.
Now let's talk about that game, because you've had a lot of issues with injury, and it's a patchwork kind of offense specifically. With that as the backdrop, how do you analyze Mason Rudolph's night? I know he threw all those interceptions, but at the end of the night, he was thrown to a lot of guys who were on practice squads or on other teams.
But he did throw all those
He
interceptions.
did.
We got to take care of the football regardless of circumstance. I understand operationally things are going to be challenging when you got people in and out of the lineup. The fluidity of how the offense moves and how we function obviously is going to be challenged there. But the protection of the football is a full-time job, and that is his charge. It comes with the position, so he was below the line.
The run game has struggled, but again, you've had guys coming in and out. As we head into this game against Cincinnati, what is the likelihood of any of the guys you depend on being available to play?
I depend on them all, so somebody's going to play. But the regulars of which you speak, James Conner is probably doubtful with this shoulder injury. Unfortunate for him. He's battled some tough injuries throughout the season and hadn't had great fluidity in terms of his availability. We're excited about getting Benny Snell back in some capacity, and we'll let his play be the determinant of that. Jalen Samuels obviously has found his traction after coming off his knee injury, and he's available for us week in and week out. So it's reasonable to expect him to gain some traction in terms of his play and approach to play. And Edmonds, Edmonds was a guy we brought up off the practice squad and really got his feet wet in some special teams work, and increasingly so in some offense in recent weeks. And it's good to watch him grow week by week. That's the backfield. We've added with White some new talent. Who's a straight line speed guy who also has some kick return capabilities. We're going to field some capable men. We'll expect those guys to lead the charge in terms of how we run the football, and our standard of expectation will not change.
Same is true of the wide receiving group. You had two guys go out with concussion. Are you optimistic they can be back for this game?
We'll see. With the concussion protocol, it's always kind of a mystical place. We wait to hear from the medical experts, as we appropriately should, and once we get clearance from those guys, we'll proceed.
The defense has had to do a lot of heavy lifting here. By virtue of a lot of these injuries that you see on offense, it's made it difficult. What more can you expect from them moving forward with 6 games left?
I thought we had significant letdown in extended plays in Cleveland. You know, we didn't give much of anything initially within the normal flow or rhythm of an offense. But Baker Mayfield did some really good things on extended plays, buying time, flushing to his left, our right, and making some critical plays. The last touchdown was 3rd down and 8 on the goal line, and seemingly the play was shut down, but he bought some time and found a tight end in the back of the end zone. He had a couple of other significant extensions like that that we simply cannot afford if we're going to be a dominant defense, particularly within the constraints of which we're working right now with the number of people that we have out. Is doubly important this week because with Finley and Cincy and his increased mobility relative to Andy Dalton, we got to be on the screws. We cannot allow this guy to get out of the pocket. We can't allow this guy to extend plays.
He did some of that against Oakland last week. We'll talk about Ryan Finley and the next opposition, which is Cincinnati, coming out tomorrow. It's an AFC North game, and even though they're winless and have been eliminated, they've been involved in a lot of close games. When we come back, we'll get Mike Tomlin's take on the Bengals. Missy, let's go back to you.
Thanks, Bob. And the Bengals have a new quarterback since these two teams last met in September. And the Steelers, by the way, have won their last 8 matchups against Cincy. Up next, I go one-on-one with defensive lineman Cam Hayward, the only Steelers team captain playing in tomorrow's game. He tells me what the Steelers need to do to regroup. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned to the Mike Tomlin Show.
Welcome back to the Mike Tomlin Show.
Well, there is a reason why Cam Hayward has been named a Steelers team captain for the last 5 seasons. It's an honor voted on by his teammates and one that he takes very seriously. It's also why if his team needs something extra this week to help rebound from that ugly loss against the Browns, he's ready to do whatever it takes.
And he's in the pocket, bumped around, hit, and he's down, back. Cam Hayward. Oh. He's hit, and Cam Hayward is in there. He's sacked back at the 15-yard line. Cam Hayward first on the scene. Cam Hayward, 5.5 sacks on the year.
Cam, coach said in the team meeting on Monday that he told everybody the end of the Cleveland game, you can't use that as a distraction to the fact that it was a loss. And I think it's fair to say a bad loss.
Yeah.
So was that message quickly received, and how do you guys kind of turn the page and try to regroup?
I think it was received, but we were already thinking that, we had a long weekend to think about that game. So coming in Monday, I thought everybody addressed it and moved forward. I think we got a lot of important games coming up. We just got to focus on that.
When you look back at maybe what went wrong, how do you fix it? Is it fixable? Is it something easy? Was it just simply everybody not executing? How do you sum it up?
Well, it better be fixable. If it's not, we're in a lot of trouble. But I think we could do a better job of not letting plays get extended. I thought we really struggled in that aspect. We got to get Baker on the ground, or any quarterback. They can't, continue to have time and, buy time for the receivers, because that puts a lot of stress on our DBs. I thought we stopped the run okay, but I think there are times we could be more stout.
You were voted one of the 4 captains for 2019.
Yes.
Unfortunately, heading into the Bengals game for a number of reasons, you were the only one playing in it. Is that added pressure? Do you not think about it, or do you always just maybe try to be that guy to rally the troops?
I didn't think about it till now.
Sorry.
I want to make sure, knock on wood, that I'm healthy, but whatever this team needs. If I got to lead a little bit more, so be it. But the good thing about playing here is just because you have the C on your chest doesn't mean you're not a captain or a leader. We got a lot of guys that lead in different ways. You got TJ, Ramon Foster, David DeCastro, who doesn't say a lot, but lets us play do the talking. So we're going to rely on a lot of different guys to lead. It's just got to be that way for 6 more games, so we get in these playoffs.
Does the team need anything different or maybe extra because of the fact, as you said, it was a Thursday game and you have to wait so long to play the next game to maybe try to get that bad taste out of your mouth?
No, I think you got to, run with that. I think with the extra time, we get to think about our mistakes a little bit more, and hopefully we can correct it for the next game. Hopefully it just makes us, on edge a little bit more, and more urgency is coming forward.
In your opinion, who's one of the, more underrated players on the defense for the Steelers?
Underrated players, I think You've watched this season, and Steve Nelson has really jumped out to me. Doesn't say a lot, goes about his business, and I think the thing we love about him is there's not a lot of catches happening on that side of the ball. Tyson Alualu, that's my running mate out there. He's a little bit older than me, but I like to say he's the old man in the group. But he's very steady for us, and a guy we can rely on going forward.
Other than the change in quarterback, what is the biggest difference in terms of Cincy's offense since the last time you guys saw them?
I think they just rely on Joe Mixon a little bit more. I think with a new quarterback, you want to settle in with a good running game. And I think a couple weeks ago he had like 30 carries, and that was a career high for him. So we got to make sure we get after him, stop the run, and then make him one-dimensional.
Over 50 sacks for you, 50 and a half. Does that mean anything?
We'll see when we're done playing, and we'll see where I'm at.
That wasn't like a number that you're like, all right, I know I can hit it this season, maybe?
I really didn't think about that. I think, there's greats. They're still above me. I want to catch them, but my main goal is to win games, not to just get sacks.
The Steelers are 8-0 when you have at least 2 sacks in a game. I know you told me to shh, but that's kind of phenomenal, right?
And we just got to...
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Let me get some more sacks, and hopefully we can keep this record going.
Hayward and the Steelers defense sacked quarterback Andy Dalton 8 times at Heinz Field when these two teams met in Week 4. But as Cam said, it'll be Ryan Finley at quarterback for the Bengals tomorrow. Coach Tomlin tells Bob Pompeani more about Cincy's rookie QB and what he expects to see from the Bengals tomorrow afternoon. The Mike Tomlin Show continues right after the break.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber. Are you 84 material? Visit 84lumber.com/careers to learn more.
When the Steelers and Bengals met each other on Monday Night Football in Week 4, both teams were still searching for their first win of the season. Well, we know how that ended, and tomorrow afternoon, the Bengals are still looking for win number 1 of 2019. They have made lineup changes, and they have been improving, which is why you can throw their record right out the window. Let's head back over to Bob and Coach to talk more about the Bengals.
All right, Missy, thanks very much. Cincinnati is next up. Steelers handled them earlier, but, Coach, this is a team that could be dangerous. I've looked at it. I know what the record says. They're 0-10. But they've been involved in some pretty good games. Seattle 1-point loss. They took the Ravens down to the wire. And last week with Oakland. Shows you that they still can, on any given Sunday, step up. What do you have to be mindful of most with that team? Yeah,
this is a National Football League. Everybody's capable, including those guys. There are a couple things that concern you about these guys. First, looking at them offensively, you better minimize Joe Mixon and his impact on the game. The game that you mentioned versus the Ravens, that was extremely close. I think he had 30 carries in the game. So we got to minimize his impact on the game, and a way of doing that is limiting their snaps, winning possession downs, not allowing him to find rhythm that a featured runner is capable of finding. Also, a critical element of it, obviously, is the A.J. Green watch. He's been close to available the last few weeks. He had a big extended workout and pregame warm-ups last week. We're not going to be shocked if A.J. Green shows up in this football game. And if he does, then obviously that's a different environment. A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, Eifert, Joe Mixon, now they're starting to put the recipe together that's made them a formidable bunch for a number of years.
But they've switched off Andy Dalton. He's not going to be the guy you're going to have to focus on. It's Ryan Finley, who's a young kid and not unlike a lot of guys who come into the league. Has to go through some ups and downs, some trials and tribulations. He was pretty accurate in the preseason. What have you seen from him since he's been elevated to starter?
It's been a growth process through the regular season, much like a lot of guys in his circumstance. I don't think it's a knock against Andy Dalton. The reason that they went to Finley collectively, they were over. And so when you're in that position, sometimes you take a look at some young guys, and this is a young guy that has some talent. His play is steadily improved with exposure, and that's a reasonable expectation. He was a quality player in draft prep coming out of NC State. He's spreading the ball around and getting it to the appropriate people. Eifert is a matchup issue. He understands the utilization of him. A lot of people with A.J. Green out has done some things to minimize Boyd's impact on the game, and you see him fluidly using other people, the running backs. The running back screen game is big as well.
You mentioned contain. You did a good job with Lamar Jackson when he was here, and you stuck to that. It was hard for him to escape. Does this guy pose similar problems in terms of moving around, not necessarily running for big yardage, but keeping things alive?
Not Lamar Jackson-like problems, but make no mistake, this guy has escapability. He has the ability to extend plays. We got to do a good job, particularly coming off our last performance where we didn't against Baker Mayfield. It's just more of a sign of where we are and the things that we need to sharpen up in an effort to be at our best. And obviously, week in and week out, we better be at our best.
Looking at their defense, how do you best suit yourself in attacking them? Is it run first? Is it pass? What have they done to make you think you can have some success against them?
You know, they've had some struggles in terms of minimizing the run game for everybody that they face. They've had some lineup changes. They cut Preston Brown a number of weeks ago and went young at the linebacker spot. But there's big time familiarity in this matchup, and oftentimes that makes checkers chess, if you will, in terms of the schematic matchups and so forth. We're very familiar with these guys. They're very familiar with us. Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap and company up front, and even now Sean Williams and Bates on the back end at the safety spot, a formidable safety tandem who has a nice division of labor, with Bates being the roaming middle of the field guy who's a ball guy and has good range and ball skills, and Sean Williams, who's the guy who's down in the box and assisting them in their run defense quite a bit of the time as well.
One final thing for you. Your team has struggled 3rd and short, 4th and short. Given your lack of maybe personnel available, do you do anything schematically different? Do you try to do something that people may not expect in order to increase those numbers, or just a case of winning those matchups?
You know, I think it's both. I think there's a certain element of football that's meat on meat, bone on bone, and particularly in those moments, short yards and goal line. So we're not going to be able to run away from that fight forever. We got to chip away at that. We got to improve in terms of our execution in that area. But we also got to provide a wrinkle, too, that keeps people off balance, that levels the playing field at times when we're short on personnel, or maybe the venue creates issues like a hostile road environment.
And that's what the Steelers will face tomorrow. It's a game in Cincinnati. You'll see it on KDKA TV. We got you covered with pregame starting at 11:30. In the meantime, we'll have a final word with Mike Tomlin when we come back. Missy, back over to you.
Thanks, guys. While the Steelers haven't been home at Heinz Field since the Rams game, there have been several football games taking place on the team's home turf. And no, I'm not just talking about the Pitt Panthers. 4 of the WPIAL championships recently took place at Heinz Field. Bob and Coach talk about that next on The Mike Tomlin Show.
Keep it locked in here at The Mike Tomlin Show.
Hey everybody, I'm Erin Becker. We're back home at Heinz Field for the WPIAL High School Football Championships. We've got football all day, and what's better than that? It's time for some football. Opening up the day were the 10-2 Clairton Bears taking on the 11-1 Stowe Rocks Vikings. The Bears started and finished strong, winning the game 41-19, becoming the 2019 1A champions, their 9th championship in 12 years. The next 3 games were all rematches from earlier this season. Next up were the 11-1 Central Valley Warriors facing off against the 11-1 Aliquippa Quips. Central Valley beat Aliquippa 45-6 earlier this season, but it was all defense today as the game went into overtime. The Warriors scored first in overtime, deciding to kick the extra point, but after the Quips scored, they decided to go for 2, but came up short, falling to Central Valley 13-12. It's their 3rd ever WPIAL championship. Then the undefeated 12-0 Thomas Jefferson Jaguars battled the 10-1 Bell Vernon Leopards. Thomas Jefferson won against Bell Vernon 34-7 earlier this season and dominated tonight as well, winning 41-7 for their 9th championship title and 4th in 5 years. Finally, the 10-1 Central Catholic Vikings took on the 10-1 Pine Richland Rams. Central Catholic defeated Pine Richland 29-7 earlier this season, and this one, after a scoreless first half, the Vikings were able to push through this defensive battle, winning 10-7 for their 7th championship title. We had a great day of football here at Heinz Field for the WPIAL High School Football Championships. Congratulations to all the teams, and thank you for joining us for a fantastic season. We look forward to seeing you all next year. I'm Erin Becker. Until next time.
Our thanks to Erin Becker and our youth football crew for covering some of the WPIAL championships last weekend at Heinz Field and all season long for the Steelers High School Football Showcase. Bob and Coach are standing by now to close out our show. Bob?
All right, Missy, thanks very much. This past weekend we had WPIAL championship action. Actually, more this weekend, 6 classifications. A lot of guys get out for it. A lot of families support it. It's fun to see, and I know if you go back to your roots in football, starting at a youth level, moving into high school, it's big time for these guys to even to play at Heinz Field.
It is a huge moment for these guys, and I can relate to it. I played college ball with a lot of Western PA guys, and I remember some of my buddies, Upper St. Clair guys from the early 90s, talking about playing at Three Rivers and so forth. And so it's a moment in time for young people. It's something that they cherish the rest of their lives to play for a Western PA championship, but also do it in a professional stadium is one of those moments. And I just vividly remember my friends expressing excitement about having an opportunity to do so when we were in college.
When we talked to a lot of kids afterwards, they said just the fact that they were on Heinz Field where you guys play, that's enough of a reward, even if you lose the game, even though those teams wanted to win. But it means a lot, doesn't it?
There's no question. It's one of those opportunities that young people really covet, and appropriately so.
All right, that's going to do it for our program. Coach, best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
It's the Bengals. It's the Steelers. It's the first of 6 remaining games, and you'll see it on KDKA. Pregame begins at 11:30. We have 2 hours of postgame afterwards, so join us for that. Missi Matthews, thank you very much for what you've done. Coach Tomlin, we'll see you again next Saturday on another edition of the Mike Tomlin Show right here on KDKA.